Hey, everybody. This is the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And welcome to the month of June. We are well into OTAs down at the facility. There's a lot going on. Of course, we had the retirement of Stephon Tuitt this week, and Diontae Johnson's at OTAs, and we'll get into all that, plus a little bit on the quarterbacks, offensive line, and a whole lot more as we get rolling. My understanding is that Ian may jump in, but he's dealing with a house full of children who have a stomach bug.
So he's probably cleaning up vomit.
I will leave. Well, I was going to say I'll leave the gory details for someone else. If Ben jumped in there,
he's cleaning up some baby puke.
Yeah. I think he was very excited because one of the kids made it to the bucket in time earlier. And let me tell you,
attaboy.
Man,
small wins.
Yeah, it is. It's little victories right there, man. So Scarps and Ben will join me, and we'll pound our way through this as best we can. Look, the Stephon Tuitt thing, guys, we, just to give the background real quick, because most people know it. His brother was killed in a hit and run about this time last year. And obviously he struggled with that. Then he looked like he was on the way back, a knee injury. He had some issues, and it just never happened. Then we hear, well, he sold his house in Pittsburgh, and he's going to Notre Dame again. He's finishing his degree, and he's living in Indiana. And, it was really hard to truly figure out what was going on with him. And if you follow the NFL, June 1st is a big day because it is big as far as cuts and salary moves and things of this nature and stuff we'll talk about here in a second. Well, yeah, without getting too specific. So yesterday,
things of that nature.
If you that nature, squirreling our nuts, other things to that effect.
What?
Didn't he say that last year?
No,
squirreling our nuts. I thought Tomlin said that last year.
I said a squirrel trying to find a nut. Or something like it.
I think
we're only 5 minutes in and we're gone.
I think Dan at DC4LCustomTees.com, by the way, I think he's got a t-shirt that says something like "Squirrel in our nuts," and it's a little squirrel, but it's got Tomlin's head on it. It's hilarious.
You're right.
I gotta find it. Anyway, the reactions, guys. Stephon Tuitt. Were you surprised by this? Were you not surprised at all? Ryan, go ahead. Give us your thoughts on when this came down yesterday.
I wasn't surprised. I've sort of had that mentality all along that I didn't expect him to come back.
Yeah.
And even as the optimism sort of grew in the locker room over the past couple weeks, Cam sure sounded like he expected him back, and even sort of Tomlin and Colbert kind of, I don't want to say they hinted, but the message wasn't like, hey, Stephon's my guy, but I can't speak about a situation. It turned into no, he'll be here. I don't know what you're worried about, and I don't know where that came from. I feel that they should have just stuck with hey, I don't want to talk about it, but he's my guy, he has my support.
Right.
So anyway, so right. I wasn't surprised. I've been prepping for it. It just sucks. He's not even 30 yet. Nope. He was drafted when he was young. He was a really, really good player when he was on the field. But in 2019, he tore his pec. He missed, I think, 10 games.
It was a bunch.
2020, he had his best season in 2020 as a pro. He missed one game, which he had COVID. And then it was like sort of in that bubble. That was a weird year, 2020.
Yeah, and no fans for the most part.
Yeah, and then heading into last year, obviously his brother is killed in a hit and run, and it's terrible. So, I look at that as like there's, maybe not so much having COVID, but like that's just like three really, weird things, unfortunate things to happen in a 3-year span. And, he got his degree. he doesn't need football. It just sucks because I feel that like he's a really good football player, and I think that it's a really big loss for the team. So as much as I wasn't surprised, I'm still kind of I don't know. I'm still just kind of questioning their thought process going into this draft and when they knew. Like, did they know for a while, or did they? Because because Stephon doesn't strike me as that kind of person that would just randomly throw this at them. So there's a lot of questions to be asked, and we'll probably never ever get the real answers to them. But that's why we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, and so Ben, I'll throw that part of it to you. I mean, you know people. Ryan knows people. I talk to people. I mean, what have you been able to piece together as far as a timeline? Did the Steelers know? Maybe when did they know it? I mean, did it affect the draft? Should it have affected the draft? So
nothing. I have not been able to piece anything solid together. I suspect they knew because the timeline is too coincidental.
With June 1st.
With June 1st.
Yeah.
June 1st is just way too coincidental a date. By delaying his retirement until June 1st, they get to split the cap hit over 2 years for the dead money, as opposed to taking it all this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better for the team,
sure,
from a cap standpoint, that they waited this long. I don't think, honestly, do not think it would have changed the way they drafted. They thought they got a second round value with Leal.
Right.
Some people say he was a first rounder. I don't agree with that. I think he was, he's a second round player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were all in on quarterback in the first round. I mean, they just they were going to take one. They were dead set. This is what we're doing. And they were going to identify the group of quarterbacks that they're willing to take. I disagree with that approach too, but they don't ask me what the hell I think.
No, they do not.
I wish they would, damn it.
They should.
No shit.
They absolutely should.
Not out here wasting our breath every week.
But so I really don't think that it changed much. Maybe they found out late in free agency, or after the first couple of waves, and the guys that were left at that point really weren't, ideal type players to roll in there and put in that spot anyway. So they just went, let's just wait and see what we get in the draft. We've seen them in the past in the second round go after players that were extremely talented that maybe had a few issues in some way. And George Pickens, fits that bill.
Yep.
So I don't think they would have gone a different direction in the draft. They got the guy they liked in the third round. I don't think he's ready to step in and fill Stephon Tuitt's shoes. I agree with Brian. This is a loss for the team. I do not believe that Tyson Alualu at 35 years old, he just turned 35 this last month, and coming off a broken ankle, is a shoo-in, no pun intended, to be as good as he was before, as effective as he was in 2021 before he broke the ankle. So there are question marks, and there are question marks along both lines, but we can talk about the other one later.
Yeah, and as far as this goes, I mean, Tuitt was long arms. Had that
tackle.
Yeah, I mean, he had all of the attributes that the Steelers love in a defensive lineman.
Yep.
And as Ryan was pointing out, in 2020, he had what really was his best year. In that weird COVID, 5,000 people in the stands season, if any at all, in some cases.
Right.
He did. He played great, and then unfortunately had the pec injury, and that was that. But it's a loss because you can't just say, here, Isaiah Loudermilk, or here, DeMarvin Leal, take over. It's not that easy.
Chris Wormley says he's gained weight, and he feels like he's going to be in a position to play more this year and he played a lot last year, obviously. I think he gained weight because he got his ass kicked in the run game. And
yeah, he was fine rushing the passer.
Oh, he was very effective rushing the passer.
Yeah, more about stopping the run was his issue.
Exactly. He was not a good run stopper, and the Steelers' defense was terrible versus the run. And I expect some improvement this year, but I don't expect them to be their old dominant selves this year. I don't expect that, and I wish I could, because when you can force the other team to be one-dimensional, they're a lot easier to defend.
Oh. So when you look at that, the personnel that's there, so when they're in base, it's you've got Hayward.
Which base?
Well, let's call it the 3-4 base, because I know we're nickel more.
34, yeah.
I was going to get to that next.
All right.
So we know that Alalu or Montravius Adams is going to be over the nose, and then you're going to have Hayward. Who's the guy that's the other end in that situation?
It'll be Wormley or Loudermilk. I mean, it'll kind of, we'll see how that shakes out, and then Leal will get some time, I'm sure. I don't know that he's going to get a ton of time, but I think he'll get some time.
And then what I'm curious about is when they do go to that 4-man front, which is more of the base these days, the nickel, where they typically knock Cam down on the inside. Tuitt would have been on the inside. And of course, he's now gone. So, does that become a rotational thing?
Well, it was before anyway.
Yeah.
Alu will be the second guy, and he was last year with Tuitt out, and he was very effective. And, hopefully he can still be very effective versus the run, and they can platoon some guys in on passing downs to give him a blow, give him a rest, and it'll work itself out. I don't want to count on that. I didn't want to see the Steelers put themselves in a position where they had to count on that to happen. I wanted to see them kind of hedge their bets and have some more depth there. So, that's the position that's realistically where they're at right now, is that they've got to count on Tyson Alualu being as effective as he was versus the run specifically.
Right. So Ryan, let me ask you this. What would you say is a bigger need right now, to add a defensive lineman or to add an outside linebacker?
That's a good question. I mean, they need depth, right? But to me, the free agent pool doesn't look as glamorous right now. There will be guys that get cut at camp. As always.
They just added Tuzar Skipper, man.
We did add the Skip man back.
That's as glamorous a signing as there ever is.
Tuzar sounds like a character from Flash Gordon.
Sounds like Rico Buzzy.
No, Rico. The Rico Buzzies of linebackers.
I'm going to switch the subject here. They definitely need depth. Okay. But I think what they need more is to hop on a time machine and go back to that first round about 6 weeks ago.
Oh boy.
So there were only 2 offensive players drafted after the Steelers took Pickett at 20. And that was Linderbaum to the Ravens, and then Smith to the offensive tackle to the Cowboys. Everybody else was a defensive player. Okay.
Interesting.
And I looked it up earlier, and but Devontae Wyatt was one, Quay Walker was another, Devin Lloyd was another, Dax Hill was another. So that's just, I think that's 4 or 5. Anyway, so if you still got and he goes by Marv. If you still got Marv Leal in round 3, and you drafted a defensive player in round 1, I'm not. I mean, to me, I don't think you have. You'd still have question marks. You'd be like, okay, they're unproven, but I'd rather have a Devontae Wyatt there at 20, and and Marv Leal
or Dax Hill either one of them.
Whatever. So give me a defensive player that we had talked about, or my guy was Kyer Elam for the Bills.
Yeah.
But I'm just, so my point being is that they got, and this will segue into this, they got a quarterback who's running third team right now.
Yeah.
And I know it's just OTAs and it doesn't matter.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
But I mean, like, if they knew about this before the draft and they still went with Kenny Pickett, I question that even more, because
they were going to, no matter what.
And to me, that's just like, like he's not.
But we'll never know.
He's not. Well, yeah, we'll never know. But Kenny, like he's not going to be Terry Bradshaw. He's not going to be Ben Roethlisberger. No. So I understand though that you want a franchise quarterback, but like I didn't like. I don't know. I hope that wasn't.
I agree with you, and I hope it's a good pick, and he's a Steeler now, and we got a root.
Yes, I hope he kills it.
You know, but I agree in so much as and Linderbaum, who you just brought up, the Ravens taking him, that really hurt. I mean, that stung literally. When that happened, I was like, God, that sucks.
Is it fair to say, Ben, that you were of the mindset that you were okay going into the season with Trubisky and Rudy and maybe waiting on quarterback till next year, or were you thinking maybe grab somebody later?
Or grabbing a guy to develop as a long-term backup somewhere in the middle rounds. Yeah. I absolutely was keen on that idea. Loved it.
Yeah. Ryan, you were kind of in that same ballpark.
Yeah, and like I said, everybody going to say I'm negative or whatever, and like
we are not negative on this program.
I'm just going to say I liked Kenny Pickett. I still like Kenny Pickett. I hope he does really well. I just there's just always going to be something that I don't like about that pick.
I get it.
And you know, I was absolutely thrilled to not overspend for Mitch Trubisky. I was thrilled that they didn't trade for Deshaun Watson, which was worse and worse every day.
Mm-hmm.
Or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Like, listen, all you Steelers fans out there that wanted one of those three guys, and you were like, and you were ready to just risk it all. Like that Kenny Pickett pick at 20 is so not even risky compared to what you want to do for those guys. But like, I was fully okay with Mitch and Mason battling it out, and then rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
I thought that he was going to have a chance to compete as well. I don't necessarily know what his role would have been had he not competed well, but I fully suspected that those were going to be the Steelers' three quarterbacks heading into this season.
Yeah. Hey, I want to remind everybody we are presented by Deck Roofing of South Florida. Deck serves Broward and the Southern Palm Beach counties, whether it's commercial, industrial, residential, multifamily, or condos. Contact Deck Roofing today by visiting deckroofing.com. And thanks to John Deck, showed my daughter a very nice time down there for about 10 days. She's now home and looking for a job and everything else. Yes, Ben?
This is not peanut butter whiskey.
It's not, nor is this.
Yeah, it's
nor whiskey, is that.
It's whiskey flavored whiskey.
Whiskey flavored whiskey.
That's right.
Can't go wrong with whiskey flavored whiskey.
No flavoring, just whiskey in a glass.
Like no flavoring. Ice. Love it. You know what, guys? Since we're talking quarterbacks, let's keep talking quarterbacks. And real quickly, I would like to bring Mr. Vomit himself in.
God damn, that's delicious.
Here comes Ian. Ian, are we in any danger of any projectiles being hurled at us right now?
Not right now, no.
Okay, all right.
Will Maggie puke on your laptop? Well,
don't let that happen. Yeah.
Well, she
would be awesome.
Asleep right next to me, so
that would be awesome.
My goodness. Yeah, because I've seen those kids. They sit up in bed, kind of like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, and it just starts coming.
That was how it was. Yeah, that's how it was last night. It was just like,
well, you can have that stuff. We have discussed, obviously, and we talked a little bit about Tuitt and stuff, and we were just getting ready to talk quarterbacks here. Colin Dunlap this week, radio personality in Pittsburgh, was, for lack of a better term, he was all a Twitter because he thinks Kenny Pickett should not be the third stringer. He's a first-round guy. You got to get him more reps, everything else. And Ben, I saw, responded and said, hey, it worked out pretty well for Ben Roethlisberger. What's your thought, Ian?
So to start with, I think we need to give Ryan some props here because on draft night, Ryan said Mason Rudolph was going to be the number 1 QB at OTAs, or at least he was going to take first team snaps. And Ben jumped all over him and said he was insane. And Ryan was correct.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
No. So, Trubisky was number 1 in OTAs.
I believe Ryan's quote was, the first day of OTAs, Mason Rudolph is going to take first team snaps. And I believe that he did on the first day.
Check the tape. All right.
I believe that Ryan did say that, but that's incorrect because Trubisky was the starter at OTAs.
I thought Rudy took first team this first day.
I think Rudy did first day.
Rudy was first day. I'm pretty sure. So it's not about being right.
No. It's about being negative.
All right, it's wine. It's heart healthy. All right, relax.
That's true.
He's taking care of himself tonight. Red wine in a Tupperware cup. I love it.
Oh yeah, I'm not fancy. I'm not fancy by any stretch.
At any rate, the depth chart at OTAs should be read into about as much as the depth chart that gets published on paper during the preseason because it does not matter. No. Tomlin always puts the new guys at the bottom of the depth chart. Some of it's to send a message to show them, hey, regardless of where you were drafted, you got to work your way up, right? I think Najee Harris might have been the exception to the rule because everyone kind of knew Najee Harris was going to be the starter, but
and because the guy's behind him,
it was a safe assumption there.
Yeah, but pretty much everybody else was, everyone who's been a number 1 pick has started the first depth chart during training camp appears at the back end of the list unless there's other rookies behind that were taken behind them. So no, I'm not reading anything into it. We have 3 guys with an offensive coordinator who is going to expand his playbook from what he was able to do last year with a quarterback with 2 lead feet. And now, we'll see what these more mobile guys can do. And it's OTAs. You read, it's football in shorts. You read nothing into it.
Absolutely.
I just fixed my mic.
What was wrong with it?
I was using the wrong one, apparently.
Oh well. Okay. Sounds better. Ben, you're the one that commented back at Dunlap for that, or Dunlap, whatever his name was. What?
You should not besmirch his name. Ian is a huge fan. You might offend him.
I personally don't have a problem with him. I mean, for the most part, he's pretty good, but that tweet was stupid. I'm sorry.
It was a homer tweet, okay?
Absolutely.
It was aimed at an audience that loves Kenny Pickett and wants to support him no matter what. And he wanted to generate some traffic out of it, make some Twitter hay, whatever, however you want to put it.
Yep.
And so he put it out there. But it was dumb. I mean, Ben was the 3rd-team quarterback all summer until the 2nd week of camp, and then Cowher promoted him.
Mm-hmm.
And he went into the season, as the backup.
Yep.
And then Tommy Maddox got injured. We know the rest.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm with Ian on that. I don't have any issue with it. Ryan, what do you have a preference one way or the other on how Tomlin's dealing with the quarterbacks?
So real quick about a depth chart story. Yours truly used to put together the depth chart.
Really? Oh,
yes.
man.
In my
Ladies and gentlemen, this is depth chart stories.
In my first year, I was very nervous. I had my little notepad, fucking writing down all this shit. I mean, I put hours into the fucking thing, and I put it. And I showed it to Kelly. He's like, Ryan, I saw you working too hard. He goes, I don't give a shit. No, but he was like, so after that, it's just like you just literally you just write down what you see out there, and that was it. So you're right. Don't read anything.
Wait a minute.
Hey, Mark.
Tomlin told you to just write down what you see out there?
No. It was more like when I was putting it together, I was more like just getting in my own head. I was like, no, this guy should be here. But meanwhile, just like literally, like it was whatever. Like,
gotcha.
And like literally, it's literally just a piece of paper. Once you get to the regular season, obviously you know what it is. But like even in training camp, like even if like let's say like okay, so one day like I was like okay, well this guy took first team reps ahead of this guy, and it's like in the grand scheme of things though, we're not going to put that out there, even though we probably knew what it was going to be. So like if you go back and look at some of those old depth charts, like 2013, 2014, like fucking like somebody like Marcus Wheaton was probably like fucking not even on the paper, or not Marcus Wheaton. No, Marcus Wheaton was a young guy back then. Like you're Sammy Coates or something, whatever. I don't know. Like he didn't even make the chart, whatever. But going back to Colin's tweet, I'm gonna go again. I'm not talking about depth chart, but I'm gonna go to where I think he was thinking, or what I think he was thinking, whatever it is. Kenny Pickett's older. Ben Roethlisberger was much younger.
True.
So if you're gonna invest in a 24-year-old quarterback, maybe you don't want to see him taking third team reps. However, but I want to say this.
Maybe you shouldn't draft a 24-year-old quarterback.
Well, there's that. But then there's also that Kenny Pickett, I know he's 24 and he did have a good receiving core at Pitt. Like the dude just needs to get his feet wet. Like this isn't, and here's the other thing too. So we'll talk about Diontae Johnson. But let's just say Claypool and Diontae Johnson didn't show up these for these OTAs. And then Tomlin said, you know what, Kenny, run first team. So he's running first team with
George Pickens and Calvin Austin.
I was gonna say, well, our rookies, but is it Cody White?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cody White would be a starter.
Rico Bussey
Rico Bussey's gone, but
Anthony Miller. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Miles Boykin.
Steven Sims.
Miles Boykin.
Jr.
I keep forgetting about Boykin.
So my point being is that I don't read anything into it, although I do understand what he's saying because Kenny Pickett is older.
If that's what his intent was, then I would agree with that.
And then you invested a first round pick into an older quarterback who's running third team reps. Yeah. I mean, when Ben was drafted, he was 21.
He was 20 when he was drafted. Okay. I think he turned 21. He turned 21 in March,
right before the draft.
And if it wasn't for those injuries, our 2004 season does not end up 15-1.
Oh, no.
Nope. I mean, maybe. I still think they would have been really good because they had a good running game. They had a good offensive line.
Standing running game.
Yeah. But they were not going to be 15-1 with Tommy Maddox or Charlie.
I mean, he just kept pulling crazy third down conversions out of his ass.
Yes.
And red zone conversions. It was like, what the hell? So that was why, like the third or fourth game in, Cowher was like, yeah, okay, this guy's a starter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I can understand where Colin's coming from, but like, if I don't want to see Kenny Pickett play this year. But then part of me is like, well, they invested a first round pick, so maybe I do want to see him play.
I hope truly that they have a problem next year because they have a first round pick and because Mitch Trubisky is killing it. And they have to make a really, really hard decision. That would be a great position to be in because that would mean this team won, 10 or 11 games. Mm-hmm. And I think that more realistically, they're going to win 8 or 9. But, I mean, if Trubisky comes out and really lights it up and forces him to make a really hard decision, that would be ideal. Really would.
Yeah. Ian, you looked like you were going to jump in there.
Oh, I was going to remind people, what I always say when we talk about quarterback depth charts, that Landry Jones was number 2 on the quarterback depth chart going into the final preseason game when he didn't play at all and then got cut. So you should read nothing into who's taking what team snaps.
They should have kept him.
Yeah.
Objectively, yes, they should have in retrospect. The other thing I'll say to Ben's point too, it's very possible that with 3 preseason games this year, each of the 3 quarterbacks may start one of them just so they can kind of see how each one plays against first team defenses. Because last year, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, it looked great against backups, and then they let him start that last game against starters, and it was like, oh wait, he looked great against backups, but wasn't quite as good against the starters. So I would not be surprised to see them let each quarterback kind of take one game to start in this
I'm
preseason.
real curious to see how that comes about. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, guys, but Diontae Johnson did show up this week at OTAs after not being there for the first week. Look, we've talked about this many times that when the season ended, he was probably looking at maybe $15 million a year, and then the Jaguars jumped in and decided to pay Christian Kirk $20 million a year. What kind of position is he in, Ben? That is he in any kind of favorable position or advantageous position for himself, or is he just going to have to play this year?
He's just going to have to play.
Yeah.
And I mean, unless he decides to make, a more, I don't know, friendly deal, structure, lower signing bonus, something along those lines. I mean, and I don't know that he's going to do that. He doesn't have to. And if his agent has got anything to tell, he's going to say, you're a $20 million a year plus guy.
Mm-hmm.
Go out there, put out some good tape, and let's go back into free agency in March, at which point the Steelers will franchise him. And that's ultimately what I think is going to happen. I think the Steelers they're going to put together a deal for Minka. That's going to take forever, as usual. And when they're done,
deal was already done like 3 months ago.
And when they're done, they're gonna turn their sights to Diontae with what little time they have left. He's gonna feel slighted.
Oh yeah. He has to understand that Minka's the priority, though, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, I think Vince Williams' tweet from the other day summed it up perfectly. It said, Diontae should definitely get paid, but Minka should get paid first.
Right.
And that's the perfect summation of the situation we're in.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I think you, as a player, you got
Christian Kirk got $18 million a year.
Right.
Which is insane.
It is insane.
He's never had a 100-yard game, right?
No. He didn't get 20. He got 18, but he's going to get 22 and a half this year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
And his full guarantee is $37 million for that guy. It is the equivalent of the Joe Flacco contract that the Ravens put out that reset reset the quarterback market completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had a bunch of guys that went, I'm better than him, and you're going to have to pay me more.
Right.
And it just, quarterback was going, here we go. And it went way up, shot all the way up overnight because of that contract. And this deal with Christian Kirk, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It absolutely obliterated the wide receiver market. And now you got guys that are going, hey, I deserve to get 30.
Ryan, what's it like around that facility when guys want and maybe even deserve new deals? Is there a different vibe around there with those players, or is it pretty much just business as usual?
I think I'm very grateful that I worked there during the time that I did.
Sure.
Because, what'd you say?
How so?
Well, they used to win playoff games.
Ouch!
It might need to be tweeted.
I'll be gone 5 years in July. I quit 5 years ago in July, and they haven't won a playoff game since I left. I'm the asshole. Blame me.
Wow.
But no, I'm grateful I worked there at the time that I did because of the veterans that were on the team. And social media was not as big as it was now. And guys like Lamar Woodley, even Antonio Brown early on, Troy Polamalu, like those were the questions that needed to be asked, but they would respectfully be like, that's between my agent and the Roonies,
Right.
I don't want to talk about that, blah blah blah, and they showed up, Fortunately, those types of extensions, once the season started and the business started, the Steelers don't do those things in season.
Mm-hmm.
So the mood is always so much lighter in the off season. You know what I mean?
Like, for sure.
It's always so like even when you knew like a guy was upset or whatever, he didn't make it apparent to his teammates. He didn't make it apparent to the media, and he especially didn't make it apparent to his teammates in front of the media.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just totally different, and I haven't been there since it's been 5 years now. I haven't been there, but you see what players do on social media. You see what players do, when they post screenshots on social media. like I don't think players hold back as much as they used to. So
right.
Who's that guy that just did a podcast like this with the guy who was working for, I don't know, some 49ers site, and he got a linebacker.
Oh, I see. I sent that to you. Yeah.
He got a linebacker on his show, and the linebacker just had a problem with him and just started talking shit. It was like, and your comment was, this is the generation that grew up on social media.
That's it's a perfect example, and I can't remember. It was. Forgive me, but it was a 49ers linebacker, and he went on a podcast, like a very reputable podcast,
right?
A reporter that I didn't see anything. He had any sort of negativity about him, and this player was like just like basically like, you aren't shit, like nobody fucks with you, and like the reporter was like sort of, he was playing it cool at first, and then finally like he was like, listen, if you're gonna come on my podcast and you're gonna do this, like, then tell me what the problem is. And I agree now, like, nobody talks about things anymore. Like,
right.
So anyway, so I don't think Minka Fitzpatrick's gonna be doing that. And going back to what Ian said earlier about a Vince Williams tweet, like Vince Williams, I think, tweeted also this week, like Minka's staring at Omar every time he sees him in the facility. And it's like, I know, I don't really think that's happening, but I would say that the main difference between now and then is that players have many more avenues to be vocal about being frustrated about something. And also too, like Ben just said, like this generation of players grew up on social, and it's just totally different. So that's why I'm grateful I worked there when I did. So it has to be very challenging.
You don't see Aaron Smith acting like this?
Huh?
You don't see Aaron Smith or Heath Miller acting like this?
No, nor James Ferrier or even Troy. Like, I mean, there was one summer. Yeah, it was a summer heading into the thing. And I swear, like, I've never heard, like, Troy was just like, I'm going to leave that between my agents and the Roonies. And, like, it was just, like, constant, like, every time. Like, I'm not going to do, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to talk about it. It's like, all right. But now, like, it would be like, player would go on social, be like, I want the, and then, like, the money bag emoji or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't blame the younger players. I don't blame the newcomers, because they just grew up differently. But yeah, I don't know what it's like in there now. But
remember the Young Money crew, the wide receivers.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm jumping in on this one because I will contend that the Young Money crew
bunch of fucking
did more damage to the locker room than any other group of players in a long time.
Okay, how so?
Yeah, okay,
let's expand upon that.
Okay, I mean, think about it here. That you had before them. I mean, you had like Hines Ward.
Keep in mind, Hines was still there at that time.
Hines was still there.
Yeah,
Hines was wicked fucking smart. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah,
that guy was bright.
You had Hines Ward there when they came in, and then you had Mike Wallace and drafted one year, in I think 2009, and then the following year you had Emmanuel Sanders in the 3rd round and Antonio Brown in the 6th round.
Correct.
And I think from what I recall, like Mike Wallace was really the driver behind a lot of that Young Money, Bugatti Boys, all that stuff.
I thought it was Sanders. Was it Wallace?
I think it was Wallace.
Ryan, you were there. Who was it?
I mean, they were all
Neither
involved.
party was innocent.
Yeah.
Neither party was innocent.
Yeah,
That was a perfect. That was a
Perfect
power,
storm?
That was a
Yeah,
power
response
trio.
right there.
That was a power trio. But they were all really nice and good to work with. Even Antonio at that time. Like they were just
And that's the thing you hear about AB all the time. Even despite the fact that he's crazy, he's also equal parts gregarious and generous and outgoing, and will go out of his way to help guys that might make the practice squad just to show them how to work. But he can also be a real douche. So he's a creature of extremes.
Well, remember when AB came into the league, like there were stories about him like giving his credit card to people and being like, go buy me a pair of shoes and buy yourself one too. Like like he was, I think over time, you know, as Ben, you've said, he surrounded himself with more and more sycophants that just told him everything he was doing was great, that he became more of the douche and less of the, you know, gregarious, you know, helpful personality.
No question.
The funniest thing about the Young Money crew that I remember was they got T-shirts made, or they got like clothes made.
Oh, you got to be fucking kidding me!
And it was like the smallest size they had was a XXX, so like I couldn't even wear a shirt. But then other players started getting shirts made. And I swear to God, it was Isaac Redmond that got a shirt and nobody wanted it.
Poor Isaac.
Isaac, listen. It's funny when it's funny because we talk about Le'Veon Bell and we talk about obviously Naj now, but but the Steelers had unsung heroes at running back for like Gary Russell scored a touchdown in Super Bowl 43.
Was great.
Isaac Redmond.
Isaac Redmond had that game
AFC
in
North,
Baltimore where he spun through the entire Ravens
won the
defense.
North.
Yeah,
I will always love that guy for that moment.
He's only like there was the Tebow game, but he rushed for like 130 yards in a playoff game, and he was like only the second undrafted person in NFL history to do so. Anyway, but Young Money crew, they weren't as bad as you thought, but.
The
weren't as bad as you thought.
The personalities also kind of changed the locker room dynamic. I felt so like too. That, you know, they definitely, you know, they wanted to get paid, and you know, like Mike Wallace basically got offered a contract and turned it down, and they turned around and gave the same deal to Antonio Brown, which in retrospect
they gave AB less.
No, in retrospect wound up being the right decision because AB was a better receiver.
Right.
But you know, it was a lot more about the whole crew felt like they were a lot more about me than the team.
Who wrote the tweet at the time that letting Mike Wallace walk and sending Antonio Brown was an idiotic. Oh, fuck. I asked him about it like 2 years later.
For once, it wasn't me.
I roasted some dudes on Twitter for those tweets and got blocked by a lot of people. Was it Chris Wessling? I think
it was Wessling. Wessling.
Because he blocked
Wessling
me for
wrote this tweet about
too.
what an idiotic move it was for the Steelers to let Mike Wallace walk and sign Antonio Brown.
A lot of people thought that.
Antonio Brown wasn't nearly as good as Mike Wallace. And I was like, a couple years later. So how'd that work out for you? And that was all I asked him. I wasn't even like, I didn't caption his tweet. I didn't do anything. It was a reply. Fucker blocked me just for asking.
All right, so the dude died of cancer last year, so we shouldn't really call him a fucker anymore.
Holy shit, he did? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He was being a fucker that day.
He blocked me for, I think I just screenshotted the tweet and he blocked me for it. So but
see?
Yeah.
Ian,
he was a sensitive fucker.
On that note, real quick, let me just remind everybody we are part of the Pigskin Podcast Network, which means we are very pleased to be working with DraftKings Sportsbook. NBA Finals, I believe, started tonight. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can bet just $5 on any team in this case, Celtics or Warriors, and get $150 in free bets if they do. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $5 on either the Celtics or the Warriors to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. That's promo code TPPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Nice. Hey, Ryan.
Yo,
good choice on red wine. I'm a
Red
huge
wine.
fan of red wine. That's me though.
I guess
Never drink wine.
I'm cutting back, so I'm going to go heart healthy. It's not. Listen, it's dark horse. Katy Perry did not endorse that, but that's all right.
Oh.
Is it table wine? Is it a red blend or is it some varietal?
It's Cab Sav, whatever
Cabernet.
that means.
Okay.
It's a bold complex oak.
Yeah, okay.
And it's $9.99 a bottle. Fuck,
Yeah.
I'm not fancy. I'm
You're
not as
fancy
I'm not
as
Iggy
fuck.
Azalea.
You're cutting yourself way too short.
Nah,
You're
Well,
classy as fuck.
Ryan, did you have another thought on that last thing? It looked like you were going to say
No,
something.
Ian,
before.
no. So about the Young Money crew, it was
Oh yeah.
they were all in one of the corners of the locker room, and
Separated?
no, so they were all in.
That's bad
They
news
were
right
all
there.
in one of the corners of the locker
I was going to say they're in the same position.
But
group.
there
It's
were-
like putting the three worst kids in
there
the seats
were-
next to each other.
But there are four. There are actually there's 6 corners in that locker room. There's 4, and then there's 2 when you walk through the doors. So they were one of 6. But the other stations were Ben, Heath, Harrison, Foot, and such. It's like Ben and Ferrier, Foot, Harrison, Hampton. So that was like the one corner of the room.
Were they on an island by themselves away from Hines, or did he keep them in line?
So
Hines was part of it
Hines'
'cause he
locker
was like
was
the old money
Hines'
guy, right?
So Hines' locker before he
Yeah.
left was that corner they were in.
Okay, good.
So Mike Wallace, I believe, took that over.
Okay.
And then Sanders and Brown were there too. And then that eventually became Le'Veon Bell's locker.
Oh boy. So that's kind of the corner of
It's actually when you
Notoriety?
walk in the locker room and make an immediate right. That's a nice corner to have. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
prime
All right.
real estate.
Sounds like the corner of juvenile behavior, something like that. I don't know. The one thing I did want to talk about also before we wrap things up tonight is the offensive line.
Are we done?
Well, not yet, but here, let me start it with this way. Ian, if we assume the starting line is going to be Dan Moore, Kevin Dotson, Mason Cole, James Daniels, and Chuks Okorafor. Of those 5, who's your biggest concern right now?
Okorafor.
Really?
I mean,
Did you watch Mason Cole's film?
Would you let him speak?
yeah.
Hold on.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not convinced on the interior of the line that it's going to be Mason Cole. I think
Okay.
they like Kendrick Green in some respect. I don't know if they like him as a center or a guard, but I think they want him to compete for something. Is kind of my gut feeling.
Let me say real quick, Green's comments this morning were all about left guard.
Yep.
He's more comfortable.
Yep.
He's enjoying it.
Way
He
happy.
doesn't- Yeah.
It's
No.
almost like they
That's-
shouldn't have fucking put him at center in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So
Maybe they shouldn't have
What's
drafted him.
wrong with Hassan Saucer, BJ Finney?
Hassan Saucer.
Yeah.
Hassan
Yeah.
Saucer.
Yeah.
I
So-
really
So-
hope Hassan Saucer's on the team again this year.
Yeah.
So
Ian,
I mean,
finish your point.
yeah.
Sorry, Ian. Sorry.
No, it's fine. But like if Green's more comfortable at left guard, that's also Kevin Dotson's position. So you kind of have 2 left guards on this roster now. And like, where do you go with that? And is there even that could be one of those surprise camp competitions that like Dotson loses his spot that, like a couple years ago when we had a long snapper competition that no one actually knew we were having a long snapper competition. Like, Dan Moore shouldn't have had to play last year, but he did have to play.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been on record on this show of saying that Dan Moore had his struggles, but he tried. He tried really hard.
Admirable.
And
I think he got better.
He got better as the year
long.
went on. And he put in the work, and, would he have been better with a redshirt year to be able to come in this year having learned some stuff? Probably, yeah. But he's also got that in-game experience now, and some of it was just, learning through experience, and you take your lumps and you learn from them and you go from there. So, I'm okay with Dan Moore. I think he'll be all right. Okorafor scares me on the right side, just because he's not a great run blocker, and he's not real good at defending against speed rushers on the edge. And a lot of teams now, it's not necessarily.
So what does he do well?
I don't know.
He's very good at kicking a soccer ball.
You need to come up with something positive, or you're going to be labeled negative.
All right, he's a large human being. He's very good at being a large human being.
I'm very good at being a large human being.
I mean, they Okorafor was probably last year their most consistent lineman, but I don't know if that's saying a whole lot. But he wasn't like consistently great either. He was just kind of like consistently okay. So, at a tackle spot that worries me. With the guards on the inside, you can help a little bit. With the center position, it's interior pressure is bad. Interior pressure kills your offense. We saw that with Sean Mahan in 2009 before he drafted Pouncey. We saw that last year with Kendrick Green. Interior pressure just destroys everything you want to do. Center is definitely a concern with whoever starts, Mason Cole or whoever else. But I feel like you can help the centers with the guards, and especially having James Daniels next to whoever the center is, I think will be better than having the statue formerly known as Trey Turner standing next to whoever the center was. But my concern on the outside is with Okorafor that if you get a speed rush around the outside, you can't help with that. There's no one there to help you. As a center, if you get beat, there might be a guard there to be able to help you, or at least a running back kind of looking straight ahead. If you get beat on a speed rush around the outside, you're in trouble. So I will turn it over to someone else now who will tell you why.
Ben, I'll ask you that same question. Of those five guys, who's your biggest concern?
Who's my biggest concern of the five guys? Mason Cole. His film, especially at center, is underwhelming. He reminds me a bit of the aforementioned Sean Mahan, whatever the fuck his name was. I don't know. He's around.
Mahan spent more time on his back than he did standing up.
Yeah, he was turtled so many times.
Cole tends to get overwhelmed at that position. I'd rather see him at guard. So that's my biggest issue. I wasn't a fan of the Chuks Okorafor extension, as we've discussed before on this show. But looking at it, it's really a 1-year deal for like $9.5 million, 9.35, I think. So it's really a reflection more of what Chuk's market was than what the Steelers were willing to do for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long-term deal, but it's not. Because after the first year, the guaranteed money's gone, and he's there or he's not. Yeah. So they can move on. Dan Moore, as we've talked about, I think he got better as the season went on. I think it's a terrible way to get introduced to the league, trial by fire, but it's going to have made him a better player.
I think he responded, and that's what you look for.
He did, and he's going to get better over the course of the offseason, both through, soft work and getting stronger, bigger, faster. He's going to get better, just working on technique. So I think it was hard going through that year with Dan at left tackle, but he's going to get better as a result. And I think at some point he's going to be a pretty decent, if not pretty good, left tackle. At guard, you've got Dotson, who is competing with Kendrick Green. And you got Jeff Daniels.
We're doing it, Harry.
Hey.
We're really doing it.
At times, it's dumber and dumber on that line.
Yeah, it is. You got James Daniels at right guard, and I think he's going to be pretty dominant. Now, if it were me, and it's not, I would shake things up there. I would put Daniels at center because he's played center, and let him adjust to that spot now, and make him the de facto leader of the offensive line. Put Dotson at right guard, which is his natural position, and have him fight it out with Mason Cole, and basically say, Mason Cole, you're going to compete at both guard spots, and we're going to see what happens. So you're going to be competing with Dotson and with Kendrick Green, and if you can make it work, you'll be a starter, and if not, you'll be the swing guy, and you'll get a helmet every week, but you won't necessarily play all the snaps.
Ryan,
they didn't ask me what I thought, as we've discussed before. So,
I occasionally we get calls. We just aren't always available to take them, as busy as we are.
The people that ask me what I think don't have any input in who gets playing time.
Right. Ryan, your thoughts. The one guy that worries you the most on that offensive line as it currently exists.
I do want to say, Ben, James Daniels has familiarity with
Jeff.
Trubisky.
Jeff.
Lloyd Christmas Lloyd and Harry James Daniels has familiarity with Mitch Trubisky. He wasn't at center, he was a left guard, but still that could mean something. I do agree, Mason, and I'm not an evaluator by any stretch, but I do agree that Mason Cole's tape is whatever. So I'm going to say that I'm going to go different. I'm going to say that my biggest question mark, and I don't mean I'm just saying this just to disagree, but I'm going to go with Kevin Dotson. He's had injury problems.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
And if you can't beat out Kendrick Green, then we got some issues. So, and I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying that, you never know how that plays into someone's psyche or your mentality or whatever. But yeah, he has had issues with injuries. So I think there's actually a lot of pressure on him.
I agree.
Yeah,
and
I think that's totally
and I think
fair.
I think he absolutely will win that battle. But I just think that that is still a question mark.
I would just like to add that, and this is not a surprise to anyone, but on the field last year, prior to the Titans game, Dotson was not playing that week, was not in pads, and he was bigger than most people in pads. He is a large human being. And his father, I saw at a tailgate hours earlier, is about the same size. Those two could do some serious damage. Let me tell you. I mean, everything you guys said is true. And Ben mentioned it in our messaging. This offense is going to be based on what that offensive line does. I don't care how many jet sweeps and anything else that gets going. It's
and quarterback.
Yeah,
and quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's QB driven too, but that O-line, man, if they don't play better than they did last year, it's not going to matter.
If they can't be at least a respectable unit,
right?
This team is seriously. It's like they're playing with one arm tied behind their back.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, nobody's saying they got to be top five. They just need to be respectable. I think that's fair. Before we do close things out, there was a very important topic that we did discuss earlier this week in our messaging, and that, of course, is. What is the best classic rock song or ever? Ian wanted me to do a top five. I can't. I just can't come up with top five.
It was
too many,
so the background
too many great
here,
songs for me. Too many
the
great
background
ones.
Here is that Yinzers know that Memorial Day weekend means it's time for the DVE Memorial Day 500, which is where they count down the 500 greatest.
Doesn't Donnie Iris just win that automatically?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say Styx, but
the the way the list is put together is always a little bit nebulous. That they have a fan voting portion where you can submit your top 10, but then it's also somewhat based on like the songs they played the most over the last year too.
Okay.
So
mind your business.
So they're not super transparent about how this list is put together.
Right.
That being said,
and I heard they hate the fucking Eagles, especially when they've had a hard day.
Hey, the dude abides. Get out of my cab.
So what was number one on their Memorial Day list this year?
Bohemian Rhapsody was number one this year.
Oh yes!
Wow. Okay.
That was actually my number one.
Last year it was Back in Black.
I guess they were right.
Stairway.
Seriously?
Stairway, which should be number one, was number two each of the last 2 years.
Back in Black was number one.
I had a hard time with
21.
Why?
Yeah, but I like I said, they're not super transparent
it's
about
like
how
the Kool-Aid of classic rock songs.
Okay,
I mean, it's good, but it ain't that good.
Yeah. So, if you're asking me, Stairway should be number one, and that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah, I agree too. It's got a little bit of everything you want in a classic rock song. Scarps, do you have any input on this?
Yeah. So
Ryan has a lot of music opinions.
Yeah, I do.
Go.
I'm a prick, but no.
Got a fucking guitar in that bag.
Listen, we fall into these traps and these we get really super nostalgic. So Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie comes out, and even though listen, if you don't know the fucking opening scene to Wayne's World, I don't want to talk to you right now, okay? So Bohemian Rhapsody comes out, and the song is number one on iTunes and all this shit, and we fall into this trap. And
honestly, is there a bad Queen song? Is there even one that's bad?
I mean, I'm not. I like Queen. Yeah. I like Queen. I love Freddie Mercury. I think Freddie.
Yeah,
they're awesome. I think Freddie Mercury is the greatest front man of all time. Not greatest singer, but just greatest front man of all time.
When you take all things considered.
All things considered. Yeah. So I do love Bohemian Rhapsody, but it is not the greatest rock song of all time.
That is just a big Skynyrd fan.
Hey, Sweet Home Alabama was number 5 this year.
Easy.
Fuck that.
It was ahead of Freebird, which is a fucking joke. Anyway.
I lived in the South, and that place sucks.
No. Anyway, my point is,
I just pissed off like half our demographic.
The greatest rock and roll song of all time is Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones.
That's a good choice.
That's a good choice.
Love the Stones.
The riff, the lyrics, the beat. Everybody wishes they could write Satisfaction. Bohemian Rhapsody is it's like an epic.
Oh, that's
like
chat.
It's an Odysseus. But nobody could write Satisfaction.
No,
I'm not gonna go by the.
And I'm a Beatles guy. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Beatles, another one. They don't have a bad song that I've ever heard.
Ben, so what would be your top?
When you guys started talking about this today, I thought to myself, I don't care. I don't care.
Somehow I knew he was going to say that.
I wanted to know how this was going to help the Steelers be successful this year. And then I was like, you know what? There are some really great songs. So, Bohemian Rhapsody was number one. I would like it noted for the record that Led Zeppelin and the Bee Gees are both white people with high voices making bad music. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
And also that I once saw the Rolling Stones live, 1991, and they were horrible. Which just fucking killed me because I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan, and they were awful. That might have been because the Rage Against the Machine opened, and then Guns N' Roses, and then the Stones came out, and I was like, really?
Could have been because you were like super drunk, though.
No.
Okay.
He definitely did not get any satisfaction.
No, he did not.
No, and that's a fucking epic song. That's a really good choice, actually.
That was a dad joke.
So
I would put Satisfaction.
I think I did throw in Hotel California just to piss off.
It's a great story.
My buddy Dan. who is a huge Eagles
I
fan.
am disappointed there's no Bob Seger in this top 10. Though.
There's no Bob Seger.
There's got to be Bob. I mean,
Baba O'Reilly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Eminence Front.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like the Who. Yeah. Yeah.
And then Purple Haze.
Oh, Jimmy.
And Purple Haze, arguably, I threw it down there as number 5, but probably should be like number 2.
Well,
maybe even number 1. I don't know. It's
the way that guitar sounded.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
Is revolutionary.
Yes.
Like that's it.
That's a great point.
I got a white Strat back there.
Yeah.
Why? I'm looking at the list. Ian has posted a list over here in our chat, and why is "Sweet Child of Mine" in there? I don't picture Guns N' Roses
rock person.
as a classic rock.
We talked about this. Fucking Pittsburghers love that fucking song.
Why?
It was a couple years ago. A couple years ago, "Sweet Emotion" by Aerosmith was like top 5. Get the fuck out of here with that.
I remember that. Didn't Dream On win it one year? Like in the I feel like
that's a solid song, but not number 1. A solid song, though.
Early Aerosmith was pretty good, but
maybe top 20, top
maybe
number
Sweet
1.
Emotion. There was one Aerosmith song won it one year, and I feel like it was when I was in high school in the early 2000s. That it was either Sweet Emotion or Dream On.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was.
You guys were talking Warren Zevon the other day, which I was just fucking blown away by because I'd never heard anybody make a reference to that.
Actually,
ever, like since high school.
Hank Williams Jr. version of "Lawyers, Guns, and Money" is better than Warren Zevon's.
I have not heard that one.
Yeah, it's good. It's
really
good. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, "Sweet Child of Mine." Listen, Guns N' Roses. I like Guns N' Roses, but "Sweet Child of Mine" isn't the 4th best song on Appetite for Destruction.
No way.
Okay. All right. I mean, like, what the
really?
fuck? No.
Eh.
Welcome to the Jungle.
I don't know.
My
I think
Michelle.
it might be 4th.
Paradise City.
Paradise City.
Mr. Brownstone.
Mr. Brownstone. Okay, it's not 4th. You're right.
Yeah, you're right.
The Rocket Queen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
great fucking album.
I've had wine.
Oh my God, that was a great album.
But I know my album.
You've all just listened to our musical.
All right, hold on. I do have to
just listen to us embarrass ourselves.
I do have to
on
say,
live podcast.
The one song we didn't mention, which finished, I believe, top 5 or at least top 10 both of the last 2 years, was "Another Brick in the Wall" by Pink Floyd, which is a really it's a good song, but it's almost to the point where it gets overplayed on the radio because you hear it so much.
"Comfortably Numb" is a top 5 classic rock song of all time.
"Comfortably Numb" is very good. Yes.
Well, it's extremely good when you were also comfortably numb.
Exactly.
You know
If you're you got a lot of substances running through your body,
right,
awesome.
Yeah.
If you're just hanging out in the house,
but I think that was their biggest hit in the U.S. ever. I think that also stuff carries weight too.
It does. There's no doubt. And next week we'll be talking about our favorite classical music of all time. No, we probably
Beethoven.
No. Anyway, I'm getting us out of here. You've been listening to the SCB Steelers Podcast, presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And as always, hey. Go Steelers.
Ravens suck.